Next, I return to Pandora's Tower. If you remember from last episode, I cleared 7 of the 12 towers with 50% of the game completed. Right away I head to the 8th tower, Torrent Peak. This one is my least favourite of the towers. It's the dark equivalent to the Wellspring Steeple. First thing I do is use the tactical manual I got last episode for an XP boost. In the entrance there's only the one door in the back. It leads to another room with a big water wheel. This one is much more a pain in the arse than the one in Wellspring Steeple. I pull a switch and swing across to the other side of the room, then climb up the pegs on the wheel to reach the 2nd floor. Up here there's a chest with a panacea. I go through the door next to the chest. I drop to the bottom of this room, ignore the waterfall and leave through the bottom door, taking me to the corner of the water wheel room. I go into the next door which locks behind me and I'm attacked by these membranes. They surround themselves with a bubble which can be removed by pulling on them with the Arachlos chain. They also spit water that gives me a defense lowering status. They aren't much of the problem though, all 3 even give me a crystal ore. I swing to the other side, pick up this rainbow scale and leave through the other door. Here I pull a switch to reveal a grapple point. I use it to swing to another switch to reveal another grapple point that reaches back to this room's entrance, creating a loop I can use to get around easier. I then return to the waterfall room, climb up to the door I first entered it through and leave back into the 2nd floor. I follow the floor around to the other side and go through the door. This one also locks behind me and next to it is the file Torrent Membrane, starring some idiot poking a membrane with a stick until it kicked his ass. In here there's some servant beasts wielding claws to take out. Killing the first one levels me up to 32. Killing the second opens the doors. I follow this next room around and find it's a dead end. The door needs to be unlocked from the other side. So I return to the waterfall room. Across from the 2nd floor door, the waterfall has rising chunks of wall I can cling to and ride up. I swing across to the 5th level at the top and open the chest for a sage stone. Then I drop down and go through the door to reach another room with a huge torrent in the middle. Just like in Wellspring Steeple, there are fish beasts swimming around it and chunks of the wall to cling to and ride up. Instead I go through the door on the other end of this room to a room of stairs. Nothing big in here, just some common items. Back in the torrent room I get climbing. I drop off in front of the sealed door I unlock and destroy the first of 3 chains. Back at the observatory, the curse is messing with Elena and ruining her translating. Next I ride over to this room with water floating near the ceiling and some membranes to kill. In the chest I find the file Torrent Master. I then climb up to the door on the top floor. This leads up to the master door, but of course I'm still missing 2 chains. So I return to the waterfall room and drop to the door on the 3rd level that I missed, thinking the previous floor I was on was the 3rd floor. To the left is another locked red door, but to the right is a set of water gate levers. One's already been pulled out. Pulling out the other opens the gate and gets the wheel moving. However, unlike the Wellspring Steeple, this one doesn't keep moving. I have to release the lever to position the wheel how I want it so I can climb to where I want. This is why this tower is my least favourite. It's such a pain having to come back here every time I need to adjust the wheel if I did something wrong. I return to the 1st floor and climb the newly adjusted wheel up to a corner of the 2nd floor I couldn't reach before. To the left of the door is the Torrent Restoration file. I then go through the door and open the sealed door to destroy the 2nd chain. I also unlock that locked door from earlier. At this point I decide it's best to leave and give Elena some flesh. Not before spending ages fighting 2 beasts with purple mist. I was in there so long that Elena reached the 2nd stage of the curse. For giving Mavda at least 300 Leots worth of flesh, I'm giving a rainbow scale and a farsight band which when equipped has items visible from further away. I equip it. I get the upgrade Twin Blades 5 using 2 rainbow scales, 2 amethysts and 2 fire ore. I then get Twin Blades 6 using 3 rainbow scales, a diamond and 2 lumps of metal. This also unlocks the Twin Blades 3rd level charge attack. I then have them make me some mercury so I can use it with a large bone and a lump of metal for the Scythe 2 upgrade. Still not done. I get some more mercury made so I can use it with an Arcana stone, 3 beast fangs and a large bone for Scythe 8. After that I finally have air and rest. He has a nightmare about how much Elena's been enjoying eating the flesh lately. Talking to Elena gets me the translated Vessel Testament 7 and the price of peace. I have the option to ask her about last night and she asks if Aaron heard anything. I just tell her it was nothing. The price of peace talks about a gathering of the elders of Ios and the Vestra tribe. The Vestra agreed to help them unite the 12 gods in exchange for being given their homeland back. At the same time, the king of Valyria doesn't trust the Vestra and swears revenge on them if it ends in failure. I forgot to read Vessel Testament 6 last time. This time the vessel volunteered after seeing the damage done to the land itself. Vessel Testament 7 is from the widow of a lord of a tribe that believes the rich must protect the poor. After her husband and son died in battle, she's next in line to protect their tribe by offering herself to the gods. After reading them, I go back to Torrent Peak. I trek back up to the water wheel and move the grapple points up to a part of the 3rd floor I can't reach otherwise. I return to the 2nd floor, but find the fixed camera doesn't allow me to see the grapple points. This is why I hate this fucking wheel. The position I put it in would make complete sense, but the fixed camera, which has never been a problem until this point, stops me from using it. After some aimless wandering, I have them start in the section of the 2nd floor I found in the 2nd chain. For whatever reason I go back down to the 1st floor and reach level 33 killing a membrane. When I come to my senses, I go through that blue door I unlocked to reach the grapple points and the chain doesn't connect for whatever reason and I fall to the 1st floor. But it's fine because the beast knocks me into the water and I respawn back on the second floor. You'd think I wouldn't grapple to the swinging point first again, but no. So I drown myself to get back up there. Turns out if I just walk down the screen a little, it would allow me to grapple the higher up point on screen. Now I can reach the next sealed door on the third floor, pick up the Vestrum water inside, and destroy the final chain. Clearing out enemies for experience on the way to the Master, I reach level 34. Just before heading into the area with the Master door, I pick up some Goddess tears from the wall. I then enter the Master's room. I first pick up the unreadable old note and then head towards the centre so that the Master descends from the flooded ceiling. She has little spikes I can grab that shoot slow water balls at me. I can grab onto them and tear them off. After the first one, she creates a cyclone of water and rises back up. When she returns from the water, she has regrown the segment I tore off. So I keep pulling off segments. Ones that don't contain the flesh reveal tentacles that will either slap at me or fire water balls. Eventually I reveal the flesh. Can't get the time to stand still and build up the chain meter with all these projectiles, so I'm gonna have to just keep plinking a health away with weak tugs. Eventually we'll travel to a different segment and then the Master will get back up in the water and the cycle will start again. In the second cycle I managed to build up a full meter only for the flesh to move just before I can use it for the big pull. As usual, she becomes more aggressive when half of their health is gone. The water blasts are much bigger and quicker than they were before. I get all my own health slapped out at one point, but I had a few Sage Stones equipped so it's fine. Now when she rises back up, multiple water cyclones appear in the arena. And that's about it. It's a long and kinda boring fight. I shorten it a little by managing to build up my meter and finish off the last chunk of her health with one big yank and take the flesh. Before I give the flesh to Elena, I pick up the colours in her dream file from her desk. It talks about one of her guilt-fueled dreams. Then I go down to the cellar and give her the Master Flesh. Now she's tearing it right out of Aaron's hands to wolf it down. That's very troubling. This time when she dreams of Reuben's parents, their neighbours have lost their child too, the war having taken the medicine that would have saved his life. His mother prays to the gods of Ios to let her and her husband have another child. They have no family left and everyone around them is dying from famine or disease. She just wants something to make them happy again. The next morning, Elena talks about the dreams and thinks it may be possible what she's seeing is even further back than the 50 years they first fought. I give Mavden my flesh and documents. I buy some more healing items and another tactical manual since I can afford it. I buy some mercury and use it with a gleaming amber and some goddess tears for the upgrade Twin Blade 7. I then buy an abyss ingot and forge some more mercury and use them for sword 5. Mavden also gives me the file The Scar 2. A journalist, I think, has managed to get confirmation from an elderly member of the Illyrian army that the Scar didn't exist until 50 years ago. I give Elena the note for translating. I also have a ramble about the Vestra losing their country. In the cellar I find the Master's Rage. It goes into more detail about the Elders of Ios working with the Vestra. The writer believes a failed attempt at recreating the original Masters was divine punishment for stupidity and arrogance. I also find an unreadable old text. I give it to Elena and set off to the 9th tower, Blazing Citadel. Of course, this is the Dark Mirror of Crimson Keep. First thing, I use a tactical manual. There's a door to the right and in the back. I choose right. The door locks behind me and I'm attacked by a giant flaming moth. It spawns smaller flaming moths too. They can breathe fire and shake off the Heraklos chain as well. What followed was a long fight with me trying to hit it when it got close to the ground and it pelted me with its children. I also get the burn status, which is just continuous damage over time. During the fight I pick up the Blazing Queen Moth file so I can read about it while it kicks my head in. Right after, I'm already losing a Sage Stone to them. The file did give me the solution though. I grab one of its children and throw them at it to stun it. This finally lets me kill it and pull an Inferno bomb from its body. With the doors unlocked, I go through the other door in this room. This next room is another that's just stairs. I just make my way to the top and go through the next door. Here I have another dark room with burning coals and some lanterns to light. It reveals a grapple point I use to swing to the left side of the screen where there's a red locked door. After lighting all the lanterns, I swing towards the back of the screen and land on the section with the coals. I follow the little path into the back, climb up on the wall, pick up a Phoenix Stone and then for whatever reason, go back, swing to the door in the back and go through it, despite the fact I could see a chain. I use my chain to block the pipes blowing steam and pull a lever to make some grapple points appear. I almost get up the first time but they go away just before I can do the last jump. I get up next time though and knock down a ladder to the room reached from the back door in the entrance. I then go through the door which leads to another of these rooms. I go right at the door and find the file Blazing a Crack. The Master's firepower is so strong it caused a crack in the furnace. I then go left of the door, climb a ladder and then the wall. This just leads to another red locked door so I drop back down. I instead drop down the middle and jump across a platform in the molten metal. I swing across to another and climb another ladder. I knock down another ladder to create a shortcut next to the entrance. I jump across to a lever that removes a fire blocking me from a sealed door. As I reach it I get attacked by a flaming tiger. He's not an issue, my charged scythe attack destroys him. I then unlock the door and destroy the first chain. Back at home, Elena's starting to break down a bit waiting for Aaron. I finally choose to return to the dark room and follow that chain to another room. I follow the chain again to another room where the door locks behind me. Just some flying beasts to deal with. I do get the last of my health knocked away but I still had another Sage Stone. After taking them all out I unlock the door and destroy the second chain. After picking up a few more items, I use a Shard of Divinity to walk back to the observatory. When I return, I find an unreadable old note on the shelf and additions to index on Elena's desk. I then give Elena some flesh. I give Mavna my remaining flesh and vials. After resting, I talk to Elena to get the translated Vessel Testament 8 and a Unified God. I then give her more to translate. She's been hearing noises in the night again, so I play a little prank to lower affinity a little more. I then go back in. This time I head to the back room. In the chest I find the Blazing Master file. Also, like Crimson Keep, the shortcut requires multiple ladders being lowered, so I'm still having to take the long way back. When I do get back up, I make sure to go down that ladder and lower all the others. I next return to the foundry and jump across the platforms in the middle, then chain to a ladder and climb up. I chain onto the big grapple point hanging from the middle of the ceiling and then on top of another machine. From there I climb down to pull another lever to remove the fire in front of the final sealed door, but I can't get to it. Instead, I'm supposed to climb back up to the higher level and go to the left so I can grapple to this point and drop down. Then I just unlock the door and destroy the final chain. I can then swing back over to the top of the machine, grapple over to a door, lower the ladder and go through it. Back outside, I swing across some grapple points while avoiding steam coming from the pipes. I reach a higher area with a ladder to lower and a lever to pull. The lever turns off an even higher steam pipe. There's a pair of ladders nearby to climb up, and then I can swing to the top level and lower the last ladder before entering the Master's room. The Master is just flying in circles until I get close, then she tries to dive bomb me, and succeeds. She can also create fire tornadoes. I take the time to get the unreadable old note and get started on fighting her. Unlike the last Master, her flesh isn't concealed, it's right in her face. Pulling on it can make her just fall on her ass and give you the chance to pull it some more. After the huge amount of damage I just did to her, she creates 6 drones and starts sending them at me. They'll also cover her face if I try chaining it. Grabbing them and pulling them will destroy them though. I get her in the middle of creating them and reduce from just over half health to about a quarter. In this more aggressive phase, she'll have the drones start spinning around her and spread out towards me. I can still destroy them though. Her dive also gets stronger and is followed by the rest of them diving me. It ends up costing me another Sage Stone. That's about it for this fight, and I tear the flesh out a few minutes later. Killing her also raised me to level 35. I then return and give it to Elena. This time she dreams of Reuben's mother seeing a representation of the power of the 12 Laws of Ios. The next morning, Aaron wakes up to see Elena staring out the window, wondering what happened 500 years earlier.
Aaron. We said we'd always be together, didn't we?
Well, that's curious. Later that night, Aaron is maintaining his weapons when Elena walks up from behind him and gives him a hug. Aww. Then tries to strangle him. Aww. Her eyes are red and Aaron has to push her to the ground, prompting that other voice to ask why he's here.
Elena!
How can this be? Aaron! I ate it all! I ate flesh! It seems I cannot be human anymore. Aaron, should I become that thing? Remember, it's not me. It's not me anymore. I am becoming a beast. Before that happens, I want you to. Please, I beg of you, Aaron.
That screams less I've lost the love of my life and more I have a terrible migraine.
It is the year 511 in the Unified Era. Remorselessly, relentlessly, the curse spreads far and wide. The names of Aaron and Elena, once sought by the Illyrian army, disappear from people's memories. To this day, they say that Mavda still brings victims of the curse to the 13 Towers.
How did this happen? How could we let this happen?
Well, Aaron, it's because my affinity with Elena was too low. There are 5 endings in this game and all are required for 100%. This was the D ending, Broken Chain, for giving Elena 9 pieces of Master Flesh with an affinity level of 1 or 0. I'm booted back to the title screen and have to watch that scene again. This time when the voice asks "Why are you here?", the screen goes black and Mavda is heard rushing in. We next see Elena in bed and Mavda says she gave her some sleeping medicine. I have a few questions I can ask her, but they're very basic and the answers are just things we already know. Mavda says she'll try to find out what's wrong with Elena, and that Aaron should just focus on the last 3 masters. The next morning I sell Mavda my flesh and files. I've been asleep for a few hours so Elena is up. First I go into the cellar to find an unreadable old text. I talk to Elena and she's translated the people's god. I then give her even more to translate. I can ask her how long we've been here, which gets her thinking her little brothers have forgotten what she looks like. I tell her that won't be true to make her feel better. I then run back inside and give my new file to Mavda. From her I buy an indigo rug, some flower seeds, a blue drape, cat's eye drape, tangled drape and red drape, wiping out half my funds. I now read my translated files. A unified god once again covers the Elders of Ios meeting with the King of Illyria to discuss uniting the 12 gods and realising they need the Heraklos chain and have to work with the Vestra. The people's god is about the war leading people away from believing in the 12 gods due to nothing getting any better, and moving towards worshipping a single god. The Elders of Ios are up in arms about it, but refuse to understand why faith in their gods is dwindling. Vessel Testament 8 is about a dancer who decided to become a vessel after her audience was sent off to fight in the war. Now I'm not trying to keep my affinity with Elena that low, I can finally give her some presents. First, I ask about her singing, to which she says she hasn't felt like it in a while. I also ask how she's doing, but she lies and says she's alright. I give her the indigo rug. This will be seen on the floor from now on. I give her the flower seeds, which she will plant, also getting back up to affinity level 1. When I give her the blue drape, she asks if she could make a bed cover or tablecloth from it. I choose tablecloth. For the cat's eye drape, I choose bed cover. For the tangled drape...
What an interesting pattern. It's really inspiring me to do something creative. Something like a bed cover or a tablecloth.
Yeah, creative. I go tablecloth, then bed cover for the red drape. She then gives me some homemade cakes for the affinity level, which I then shove in storage. I go back to Mavda and forge a white gold ring with 2 gold coins and a diamond, then a rainbow bracelet with a rainbow scale, a lump of metal and an amethyst. I then buy a pot of dryad, a pot of geranium and a flowering plant. I then head back to Elena. First I give her the 3 plants. All 3 will now be seen around the house. Then I give her the white gold ring. She loves it and asks if Aaron has ever given anyone else a gift like this. She's thrilled to find that he hasn't. We'll be seeing her wear it from now on. Giving her the rainbow bracelet raises affinity to level 2. She'll also wear this from now on. For the affinity I get 2 homemade salves I also chuck straight into storage. With all that done, it's time for Tower 10, True Gold Tower, the dark mirror of Ironclad Turret. This time there are 4 chains to deal with. I go through the door in the back that locks behind me. This place has even stronger versions of those highs from the Treetop Tower. The hornets this one spawns now have their own acidic projectile that lingers on the ground a bit. Apart from that, they're the same as the earlier versions. I climb to the top of these boxes and pull a switch to get a rail moving. It moves quite fast though, so I have to turn it off and time it so the grapple points stop above where I need to drop. I grapple over to another platform and then grab onto another moving grapple point and ride it up into a room filled with pistons. Very similar to another room from Ironclad Turret. I head to the left and in the corner I find the file True Gold Hammers. It tells me nothing I didn't already know from Ironclad Turret. On the other side of the room I find 2 steel ingots. I then return to the bottom floor and stop the grapple points earlier so I can get to the door with a chain above it. However, I'm foiled by the gap being too big to jump. So I head back up and go through the door. In this room there's a hole in the floor I can climb down. The door here leads to the part of the bottom floor I was trying to reach before. Here I can lower a ladder to create another shortcut. There's a switch next to the door that gets another rail moving. I use it to chain lower down so I can first climb to another switch to get it moving again, and then another that changes direction so I can get to that sealed door, unlock it and break the first chain. Meanwhile, Elena is in a trance talking to herself. I return to the previous room, chain onto a ladder in the centre and start climbing another one of these rooms. Got pistons to pull out and attach to posts, and others to wait for to time my jumping and climbing. I pull a lever that brings the platform over to me and then pull it again while standing on the platform to ride it to another section. There's a blue locked door here and I climb the ladder next to it to find I can't do anything here yet. Rather than climb back up, I just shout Divinity back to the observatory. Elena gives me the translated Vessel Testament 9 and I can have her praise me for knowing how to save the game. Then I give her some flesh. Vessel Testament 9 shows that the Blazing Master had no tragic backstory, she was just really thrilled at the idea of being fused with a god. From Mavda I buy pure tea leaves and a blue garb. After resting until Elena is awake, I give her the pure tea leaves and then the blue garb. She'll now be randomly wearing this instead of her original outfit. It's very nostalgic for Elena because it's just like what she was wearing when she first met Aaron. I then go back into the tower. I pull out the first piston I can and instead go through the door. While it's slowly working its way back, I can chain up the ladder and run past it. I can then chain to another ladder leading to a chest containing some Aegis steel. This time when I pull the lever that brings over a platform, I just cross it and go up the stairs, which leads me slightly outside where I go left and down some stairs. After taking out the enemies, I open the sealed door and destroy the second chain. I then take the stairs on the right which lead me to the file True Gold Enhanced. It talks about how the master of this tower has made the weapon production more efficient. I return to the other room and time riding this grapple point so I can land on the piston. I can then climb another to hit a lever that changes the rail direction so I can ride the previous one higher and land on another piston that I drop next to and open a chest containing an unreadable grimy note. I then break free the two pistons here. Not seen was a lot of pissing around making no progress, so I walk back out. For returning home between 6 AM and 11 PM over level 30, I get a new scene where Elena welcomes Aaron home from upstairs but falls, but Aaron catches her so it's alright. She also gives me the translated Who Are the Masters just in time for me to give her more to translate. I also get her to talk about how intimidating Aaron was to her when they first met since he barely spoke at first. I then give her some flesh. From Mavda I get the Sword 6 upgrade using 2 Abyss Ingots and 2 Crystal Ore, unlocking its next charge attack. I then get Sword 7 with an Abyss Ingot, a Steel Ingot and some Mercury, then after resting I return to the tower. While I'm getting back to where I left from, I decide to read Who Are the Masters. It reinforces that the decision to create the Masters was reached from the people rejecting the religion of Ios due to the war. With those 2 pistons freed, I can finally ride the platform back across. I use the first one to jump across to the centre again and chain it to this post so I can wait for the second to come out and jump across. From there I ride across 2 rails to a lever that changes the course for the rail lower down. I can then ride that to another almost outside area that leads to the third sealed door, letting me destroy another chain. I jump across that first piston once again and then pull out and climb 2 more to reach the top floor of this room. I unlock a blue door up here and go through it. I go left from the door, drop into a hole and then climb across some more pistons to reach the final sealed door. I also unlock the other blue door. I unlock the sealed door and destroy the final chain. I also hit another lever next to the door to create a shortcut back up here. I return to the top floor and go through the only other door up here. The door locks behind me and there are beasts waiting for me. Nothing I can't handle at this point. In the corner is the True Gold Master file. I then go up the stairs and through the next door. This leads me right to the Master's door. I get the usual unreadable old note and start pulling on this thing blocking the Master's flesh. This sets this ring thing spinning. There's now one segment to it with a hole that I can chain and drag over to the flesh to expose it. Now I can set the rest of the Master off. I do a huge amount of damage with the first yank, leading to her jumping in the air and spinning the ring again. She starts sending red things on the ground that I destroy, and the other segments of the ring will start growing cannons for me to destroy. I pull the empty segment back over to the flesh and take out the second third of her health already. In a more aggressive phase, her jumps now create shockwaves for me to avoid. It also creates barriers on either side of her that I can't destroy. And the flesh is on the other side, so I just have to wait a bit until it goes and the next one she creates doesn't block me from the flesh. That's all there is to say about this boss, and 5 minutes later I had that flesh. Killing her also raised me to level 36. Back at the observatory I give Elena the Master Flesh. It also raises her affinity to level 3. This time she dreams of Reuben's parents hearing of the plan to unite the 12 gods of Ios. His father doesn't sound convinced by the idea, but his mother is all for it, saying that the gods have been incapable of preventing the war and all the children that died from it. She intends to offer herself as a vessel. We then see an elder declare the start of Experiment 0. The next morning Mavda visits. She tells Elena that she's turning into one of the Masters herself. She and her husband reveal what we've already worked out by now, that the Masters were once humans, whose souls trade a place with the creatures from the Scar. Mavda has known this since the beginning. Elena thinks Mavda has tricked them, but Mavda says that eating all Master Flesh will absolutely cure her. She also states how impressed she is by Aaron's use of the Heraklos chain, to which her husband adds that there is a link between the chain and Aaron's ancestors. Once she leaves, I talk to Elena, who doesn't understand why Mavda kept information from them. I respond to her anxiety by making her do more translating for me. I then buy a green garb from Mavda. I then get the Sword 9 upgrade using 2 Aegis Steel, 2 Crystal Ore, 2 Mercury, and a Fire Ore. She then gives me the Beast's Curse, an article about the theory of creatures from the Scar trading places with humans. I then give Elena the green garb. She says this is a common style of dress in Illyria. In the cellar I find Divine Unification. It says that the creation of the original Masters took place in the Centrum, the 13th tower in the centre of the towers, starting with the creation of something called Zeron. Zeron was to be the catalyst to unite the 12 laws, but as we already know, that ended in failure. I also find a heroic race, an eyewitness account of the Vestra holding the land in place after the failed experiment, creating the Scar. There's also an unreadable old text I hand over to Elena. I'm given access to 2 more towers, Dawn Tower and Dusk Tower. I choose Dawn Tower. Everything's covered in this bright gold glow. It looks cool. We're back to a male god this time, but with wings symbolising light. There are doors in the back and the right. I go right first, but the stairs are blocked off and there's a purple glow I can't reach. So instead I go through the door in the back. The first enemy I kill drops my first light shade shard. I climb up the wall to see another side of the room is blocked off, so I go in the door to the left. I go up the stairs and through the next door. There's another purple glow here and I step into it. This warps me into the Dusk Tower, the dark equivalent, and the rubble blocking me from going further isn't here. So as you've probably worked out, I need to warp between the 2 towers to solve both at the same time. This is really cool and makes them my favourite towers in the game. Dusk Tower has a bright purple glow everywhere that looks cooler though. I find the file Blacklight Vortexes. It talks about being able to warp between towers and how to open even more vortexes. There will be faint glows of yellow or purple in some spots, and these will require finding and using light stones and shade stones respectively on them to open them. I then go back through the door that led to this room, then down the stairs and through the door again. The rubble is gone here so I can reach the door on the other side. There's an unopened vortex here, but I don't have a light stone yet. Here I can unlock a blue door leading back to the entrance of the Dusk Tower. I then return to the room I first warped here and walk over to the next vortex, returning to the Dawn Tower. In the first set of boxes I break, I find my first 3 light stones. I then go through the next door. In the corner of this room is Blacklight Controls. It repeats how the vortexes work to really hammer it in. There's a vortex in the other corner and a closed one reached by chaining up to this ladder. I don't have any shade stones so I go through the one below. There's no way to get up to the next floor in the Dusk Tower. In the corner I found the file, I find my first shade stone. I then go back through the door to find another. I go back in the vortex, then climb up to the closed one and use a shade stone to open it. This is how I get higher. I can knock down a ladder so I don't have to mess about with that again, then unlock the sealed door and destroy the first of 8 chains, 4 for each tower. At the observatory, Elena is talking to a bird and pretending it's Aaron. After last episode, I wouldn't trust a near one. I go through the door on the left. The stairs here are blocked by rubble, but there's a vortex back to the Dawn Tower. I go back through the door, lower another ladder, open the sealed door again and destroy the Dawn Tower's first chain. Can't go any further from here, so I return to the Dusk Tower and go right, past the sealed door and climbing up to the next floor. There's a chain leading up, but I can't deal with it for a bit, so I just go through the door. After taking out the 2 enemies with purple mist in this narrow space, I go through the next door and through a vortex. I get attacked by a new enemy, this floating night thing. It doesn't get to try much before I kill it and reach level 37. The door across from the vortex is locked on the other side, so I go through the door up the stairs. Up here is a closed vortex, but a larger glow means it's open on this side. I need to open it on the Dusk side. I don't realise this and waste both my shade stones. So I drop down, ignore the vortex here and go through the door. Here I can unlock that last door and there's a chain I follow through another door. I couldn't climb here in the Dusk version of the room, but here I can lower a ladder and chain up to another sealed door so I can unlock it, pick up my first Luminous Stone inside and destroy the Dawn Tower's second chain. I then backtrack to the vortex I skipped and go in it. It gives me the chance to replace the shade stones I wasted. However, I get my first death. Ever, I think. I don't think I died once when I first played this 8 years ago. I'm checkpointed after breaking the second chain, so I didn't lose much. And it's harder when I get back. Last time only one beast had purple mist, this time both do. I can use the opposite tower's stone to stun them though. I reach level 38 killing one of them. Once they're dead, I go through the door where I get my first Stygian stone. I go back and climb up the wall to find another red locked door and open the vortex I wasted those shade stones on. I cross the balcony that's missing in the Dawn Tower and go through the vortex at the other end. I then go through the door, up some stairs and go through the next door. I go right and through the next door again. There's a sealed door I can't reach, so I open the vortex to the Dusk Tower's version of this room. I unlock the door here and then climb up to the higher level to find Blacklight Stones. It tells me about using the stones to stun enemies. As I approach the sealed door, I'm attacked by the Dusk version of those night beasts. Once I kill it, I unlock the door and destroy the Dusk Tower's second chain. Going right from the door is another vortex back to the Dawn Tower. I then swing over to the sealed door and destroy the Dawn Tower's third chain. Just 3 left between the 2. I then return to the Dusk Tower and go through the door I unlocked. At the end of this room is another locked door, and I go through the one between it and the one I entered from. I go down the stairs, open the vortex here, but stick in the Dusk Tower and go through the door at the bottom. There's nothing here and I've been here long enough. I walk back. Did well though, 5 of the chains in the first visit. Since Elena transformed while wearing the green garb, I find it damaged on the table. On a desk I find Sounds in a Dream. I then give her some flesh. Mavda gives me a spirit silver for selling her over 500 Liots worth of flesh. I repair the green garb and rest until Elena is awake. When I talk to her, I get a scene where Aaron eats the breakfast Elena made him. Apparently it's not very good. I talk to her again and she gives me the 3 files she translated, Vessel Testament 10, Creating Zeron, and Alchemist Duty 5. She's also found out what the noises at night are about. She found a scratch on her bed frame. Turns out it was a mouse. I was expecting it to be her losing control. I give her back the green garb and she's apologetic for getting it dirty. She gives me an ambrosia for reaching level 3 affinity. She's a little late on that. I do lower the affinity though with a large bone just to make sure it stays low enough for the ending I want. Vessel Testament 10 is the story of a starving woman who spent years in jail after stealing some food, was released to find a war happened and made the world worse, so volunteered to be a vessel. Creating Zeron tells us that Zeron was the final experiment after the Masters, created using a married couple. You can probably guess who. After that it's back to the tower, this time I start in the Dusk Tower. I go in the room in the back but there's nowhere to climb in this tower's version, so it's backtracking to where I got up to last time. I go through the door I unlocked last time I was here and reach level 39. I open another vortex and go through the door leading to a ladder in the back room I can lower. I also get my first white droplet here. Then I start making my way back to where I got last time. I reach level 40 on the way, followed by level 41 seconds later. A lot of purple mist this time through. Only 9 levels off the cap now. So apparently there's a game-breaking glitch in the US version of this game to do with these towers. I can't say much about it myself since it's not in this version. It is strange though, since I thought the US version was just supposed to be a straight port of the European version, but I don't know anything about changing the game's region coding. I return to the room outside the one containing the 3rd sealed door in the Dawn Tower and go through the door at the far left end. In this room you can see the other tower through a window. I open the vortex in the corner to reach the dusk version and unlock the door. There's a vortex floating above the now broken bridge, but I don't think much of it yet. I then chain up to the ladder on the bridge and go through the door there. After killing the enemies I open the vortex and go back through the door to get on top of the bridge. I then lower a ladder next to the door on the other end, then go through it. I ignore the next set of enemies and just go through the next door. This leads to the Master's door just in time for my footage to corrupt. Of course I'm still missing 3 chains. I find the Blacklight Masters file here, looks like I'm in for 2 Masters at once. I also find an unreadable old note next to it and go through the vortex. I leave through the way I came and backtrack to the other side of the bridge to lower a ladder and pick up my first Dark Matter. I then return to the room with the Master's door and find another unreadable old note. I go back through the vortex and go through the door on the right, and then the one right of that. In here I find a 3rd unreadable old note. I leave this room and here is where I get a bit confused. There are some points to swing across but nowhere to swing to. I can see the last chain going through this wall and the point to destroy it through a hole, but I can't get to it. So I go back into the Dusk Tower and go through the right door here, but the door on the right in this room is locked on the inside, and the sealed door is blocked by a wall of rubble. There is another floating vortex next to it though, so I leave and climb up the wall next to it. I can see a vortex next to a chest in the locked room. It hasn't clicked yet and I'm looking for another point to chain to get inside. But then it clicks. The other end of the vortex is invisible. So I go back to the room on the right in the Dawn Tower and use a stone in the corner to make a vortex appear, and then use those grapple points to swing to it. I unlock the door and unlock the sealed door to destroy the 3rd Dusk Tower chain. I figure I've been in there long enough and warp out. I give them more stuff to translate and tell her to stop perving over Aaron's bulking up from all the exercise going on through the towers. I then give her some flesh. After selling my stuff to Mavda, I go back in. On the way back up I reach level 42. I return to this room on the Dawn side where I found an unreadable note and use a shade stone in the corner to reveal the hidden vortex. I get a spirit silver from the chest along with a damaged orb of opposites and an unreadable grimy note. I unlock the door and find the file Centrum the Fulcrum. For whatever reason the army were unable to get inside the 13th tower 50 years ago. At this point the vortex above the hole finally clicks. I go back down to this bridge in the Dawn Tower and use a stone in the centre. This drops me right in front of the sealed door. I unlock it, destroy the final chain for the Dusk Tower and return to the top. I also find an unreadable grimy note next to the hole. For the final chain, I go into the top chain room in the Dusk Tower and use a stone in the middle to create a vortex to the final Dawn Tower chain and destroy it. Now I can finally take on the Masters. I start with the Dusk Master and she's just stuck in the wall waiting for me to pull on her flesh, tearing her out of said wall. I don't get to do much before she traps me and warps me back to the Dawn Tower's Master door. He's also stuck in the wall, but this time pulling on his flesh destroys the wall completely, leaving me to face both at once. They both have barriers around their flesh and only the opposite element can weaken that barrier. I can walk in front of one master while the other is charging a laser and make them shoot the other. They both throw projectiles that I can pick up and throw at the other two. Another attack they have is firing out mini black holes. It takes 3 hits on one to fully remove their barrier. When I get rid of the Dawn Master's barrier, I just keep pulling on that flesh, ignoring most of the damage I'm taking. I get it to the last 5th of its health before he repairs his barrier. but I take it down not long after and finish him off, taking his flesh. He leaves some projectiles behind for dealing with the other. You don't want to defeat the first while the other has a lot of health though, because after a while the survivor can revive the other. So you need to kill them close to each other, and that's everything to do with this fight. I finished them off a few minutes later and had the final 2 Master Flesh. When I get back to the observatory, Mavda is already waiting for me, surprised when I'm back with 2. Since Elena transformed, the white gold ring broke. I give her the last pieces of Master Flesh. She rips both of them from my hands and wolfs them down. For the last dream, we see the start of Experiment 0 on Ruben's mother. However, the experiment is failing, leading to an incomplete master. She also sees her husband holding a child, not knowing whose it is, believing he had a child with someone else. She says that her children's lives will be linked to his children's before demanding to know why this had to happen. As usual, Elena passes out. The next morning, Elena is missing from her bed. First I go to Mavda and sell my stuff, along with getting the white gold ring repaired. I go into the courtyard.
Elena.
So this final boss is a watered down version for this ending. One of her attacks has her use the flesh from one of the Metal Masters to make a series of stalagmites rush out towards me. To damage her, I have to pull on the flesh that appears as she does these attacks. She'll try to uppercut me and use the flesh from a Fire Master to shoot fireballs at me. These are the only 2 flesh she'll use for the ending C final boss. I must say, I always like it when games have enemies or bosses invade areas that have always been seen as safe. It just feels wrong in a good way. Each flesh has its own life bar, and when it's destroyed, the boss can no longer use that attack. I finish her off soon after.
No, this cannot be!
Elena.
Aaron. This is it.
If we hold the towers together with Elena's powers, we could bring this war to an end. But a wiser course would be to take this chance to unite the whole land under the flag of Illyria. After all, the towers were for the military's exclusive use.
Aaron, you're the only one who can do it. You can command our forces and influence Elena. In the year 511 of the Unified Era, the Kingdom of Illyria lost patience with Athos, who refused to accept their conditions for a peace treaty. An army division headed by Elena was formed, made up of the servant beasts that dwelled within the towers. Spearheaded by this force, Illyria invaded Athos. Within a short time, the capital of Athos fell. The Kingdom of Illyria united Imperia under its flag. Old rulers were deposed, and the Illyrian era was ushered in.
Well, wasn't that miserable? That was ending C, still together. We're not done yet though, I've just unlocked New Game Plus and I'm only at 74%. That last 26 will be in next episode.